insight and a worldly outsight. To have an insight of something is to know what makes it tick, what makes it work, what ingredients is in the pie that tastes so good. Having an outsight is to know, okay, the pie smells good, so I'm going to taste it. And then the taste, because you just have an outside, that's all you know is the smell and the taste and the look. The spirit world works just in the same way. When you have an outside of something, you go and you look, you see a drunk on a corner, and he's telling you all these stories and he's saying all these things, but your outside person says he doesn't look good, he doesn't smell good. So anything that he has to say to me ain't going to taste good, so you ain't trying to hear it because of what you smell and see. But somebody with insight stops and they go and they listen, because their insight, which is their spiritual man, sits down and goes, I want to listen to him, because wherever he's been through in life, he must have had a good and a bad experience. So whatever he has to say is knowledge. What is knowledge? Knowledge is when you have the actions and the works of that subject matter. Knowledge is having been through something or worked in a position. I was a cash register at the age of 15 at McDonald's. I went and started doing payroll. I went to college and got an accounting degree, thus thou being a junior accountant, because I've had the knowledge of working with money and handling finance. That is knowledge. Knowledge is the experience into something. Wisdom. Wisdom is to have an insight of past, present, and future, whatever the subject matter is. Because you have an insight of it, not a worldly outsight. And a lot of people are taking on an outsight instead of an insight point of view in life. It's okay to go and do the research. You got to do the research because you want to know the truth. I want to know where in the heck all this stuff came from that people are saying. Where did these black rulers, where are they? Why would they lie? Why would they do this? The first thing you need to do is get an insight. If somebody's been lying to you and playing games with history, the news, and everything else, you got to find discernment to say, okay, something's not right, because my insight, spiritual man, is telling me that these are not adding up. So now you want to look at the characteristics and what these people are, what makes them lie, and what there is and is their agenda. And if you're into the Word of God, you will see that these same traits just carried over and carried over. And if you see the same traits on the inside spiritually, then your outside will already come to you naturally. When you go and you just have the free will with no insight, looking for things with an outside spiritual person, or an outside worldly person, I should say, guess what? You're gonna get thrown all kind of balls, all right, and tricks of Satan. Right now, we have dominion only through the Messiah and Yahweh over the dominion on this of the dominion on this earth, spiritually over Satan. Because if you're not spiritually in tune, that means you have no control over Satan. He has control over you. He can throw you any curveball he wants to. Because you're naturally on your outside person, you're worldly, just searching for stuff. Find who you are. One thing that I've noticed by a lot of the things the Lord has shown me. I grew up a certain way. Grew up with a lot of Asians, Caucasians, Spanish. I grew up with mostly more of everybody else's kind than I did my own. But the Lord had a path for me because I've learned everybody else's culture. I learned everybody else's ways. I've been around a lot of people. A lot of people don't have a spiritual insight, you know, until the Lord wants them to at a given time. That's even if he takes you down that road. And not everybody's going to be the same either, because even a tree has different functions in that one tree, which helps it to bear fruit, which is the grafting of why the Lord had brought in the new covenant, to see what one side was going to do and act, and to wake up the other side to what the things they have done in the past. So if you have a spiritual insight, then you can discern the good from the bad and already know. You should already know by your characteristics. All right. Example, they found that shit that was a Caesarea, what? Constantinople, Constantine shit. All right, back over there by Israel. They was all in that area. They plumaged the village. The Hebrews and the Israelites were trying to swallow the gold and do all this stuff. They was ripping it out of their stomachs, raping them. They did all kind of stuff. Some fled over here, some fled over there. And then that's when the Africans didn't want them over there and just sold them into slavery. See, find insight. Now, if you find insight, you'll understand that the Romans and the Grecians and all them, what they used to do is they would take all the blood, pig's blood and fish blood, they'd mix it in with the guts, especially the fish blood, they would ferment it, put it around the meat, and they'd put it in the sun, and they'd keep doing it until it got really, really fermented and all this stuff, and they would use that as an appetizer. Now, I'm asking you, and if you go and you know anything about Irish people, they got a thing called black pudding, whereas pig bloods is collated, they do whatever to it, and they feed you it. All right. Now, you people don't know these things. So I'm asking you, do you eat those things? No, you don't eat those things. You couldn't even think in a million years. Then that means that you're not a part of that. So what is you searching for? That's why I said if you had spiritual insight, your worldly outside will already lead you. Did you know that, and if for a lot of my Caucasian brothers and sisters out there, this is the truth. A lot of them come from a past where they are more susceptible, excuse my, me trying to pronounce the word. They are more, you know, in tune with the evil side of the spirits, the demonic spirits, than, you know, especially a lot of Semitic blacks are. That's because of their ancestors, what they did and how they worship, which is why you see a lot of Caucasians go out here, voices in my head. Oh my gosh, there. No, and then to them, since they're logically in tune in the world and scientifically in the world, and they're so caught up with the medical, everything is logical with science to them, and has some kind of mental thing. Since there's so much out of tune with the spirituality, they think they're going crazy, so they have to take medication or they have to go see a psychiatrist, when actually you're not hearing voices. Those are daggone demons talking to you, because a lot of them were a part of something. So if you're coming renewed and being born into God, you got to get a good understanding that they had a lot to fight off of, fight with and against, to come into the film, because Satan does not want to let, and those demonic spirits don't want to let a lot of them go and cross over to God's path, because there was a pact that was spiritually made which brought them into the fulfillment, which is why God used that as a trick, because then they'll have a choice. A lot of blacks, why doesn't that happen with blacks? Hey, I'll tell you why. Because the majority of blacks is already out here being hard-headed and doing whatever the hell they doing. So the devil's just like, shoot, we ain't got to mess with them. Then they do carry a veil and all this other stuff. But worldly, they've already given up their free will to, you know, for dollar bill y'all and everything else. They already doing black on black crime. I don't have to send nobody over there to do this. They doing fine enough. They'll kill 100 people in their community by just committing some atrocity, selling drugs or doing this, or robbing, stealing, or setting their brother up, or doing this, that, and the third. Well, I don't have to. They'll kill themselves off quicker than we can. Just let them go ahead. That's how the devil looks at it. The devil looks at it when he sits down and he tells you, oh, you want to listen to him. You know, especially if you're Caucasian, oh, look what he's got, you know, he's dressing. Does he have a job? And I bet he's not driving this kind of car. And then they'll get into all the things that don't matter to God to put that logic away in when it's all deceit in the end. You see, every culture and every race has its own role to play. If you're from India, people from India, they changed their life around to God. They have even just as much spiritual power if they did come to God in the Messiah than a lot of the Hebrew Israelites. And the reason why I say that is because they were the ones that did leave. They were a part of the big movement that mothered a lot of nations. You see, the Lord likes it when people come over to him that didn't have anything to do with him. Because he blesses, because that's a big change for them. And that's a big move. He loves the ones that he gave the promise to, but guess what? You got to show and prove. Because you doing the same thing your ancestors doing. And you can only piss a parent off but so many times. It's the same thing worldly and spiritually. Your insight and your outsight. You have to look, it always is said, look for a person for who they are on the inside, not the outside. How many people walk around with $10 shoes, $3 pants, and a busted up old shirt, but since they got a big house, a fat bank account, and a nice car, those things outweigh the way they dress, how many times they took a shower, and what their hair looks like. And it's real funny how a material thing can outweigh where a person's dressed. But then a person would have to break their back to fake it to make it because they don't have those material assets to make them look good. Now, do you see the socialistic ways? Do you see the inside and the outside? Because if you're not spiritually in tune, guess what? You're not going to attract that spirituality that is in tune with the others out there. If you don't disconnect and let go of fear, of loneliness, of your life changing around, of you losing things because you have to leave that characteristic or socialistic group away for God, guess what? Then you go into the hellfire. There is no, okay, I'll act fine on this note, but I need to get paid and do a job on that note. No. It all coincides together. If you're doing the job and it's causing you to spiritually be on the outside of things, in a worldly thing, committing atrocity, you need to quit that job, find another one. If you have friends and family, and they're the only thing you got in this world, but they're not in tune spiritually with you and having insight of what the word is and what God was meant to be, and only the outside of how to be to fit in, then hey, and you need to disconnect that and start over anew. Because see, the Lord works in mysterious ways. He'll replace all of these things and open up doors for you because he sees you seeking with an insight, not an outside. An outside gives you different options, gives you different paths. It gives you a logical reason. It gives you scientifical mythologies that add into worldly logic, which leads you down the path of destruction and hellfire. So regardless of the fact, there is no whole bunch of paths. There is not no if. There isn't, but God, you know, I was just only, don't work like that. This is a probation period time for you to get your insight and your outside correct, because you can't have one without the other. They're supposed to be connected and together. The characteristics is what people carry, and it shows the change. I do not care who you are. You have more Hebrew and Israelites that are committing more atrocities than the Gentiles that are crossing over. And then you got a lot of Caucasians that are sitting down trying to show the the lost people, hey, y'all lost, you know, you got to do this and this and third, and vice versa. Everything is equally and well-rounded. There is no angle, there is no separation and segregation unless you're not on this path. And you got to be of righteousness. You got to be, and I'm dead serious, you're going to go through some things, but that's the power of faith. That's the power of prayer. You don't sit down and throw everything in the Lord's hands. You have faith that the Lord will sit down and work within you and take it off your hands. Because if you don't believe in yourself and have no insight within yourself, what do you have? Nothing. You first got to follow the laws, have faith within yourself and what you believe in. before it can project on the outside.